Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Pranams. Thank you for joining in for our Krishna book study session. Let's start with the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtuki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namo Pankajanabhaya Namo Pankajamaline Namo Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangraye Pahi Pahi Mahayogin Deva Deva Jagatpate Nanyam Twadavayam Pashe Yatra Mrityu Parasparam Krishna Krishna Mahabaho Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tvameko Dayyamananam Apavargosi Samshrutehe Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadesh Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and Pranam. Thank you very much for joining in for our Krishna book study session today. We were reading about the chapters where of Krishna's pastimes, because Parikshit Maharaj is inquiring from Shukadeva Goswami, please continue to narrate to me the wonderful pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna. So we are hearing all the pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, right from the time of Krishna being in Dwaraka, how Krishna married to various queens, how Krishna helped Yudhishthira Maharaj perform the Rajasuya Yajna, and then we also studied about how Krishna met re-met Sudama, right? When Sudama had come to offer poha to Lord Shri Krishna, how Krishna reciprocated with Sudama, and all these wonderful pastimes we were seeing. We also saw how Krishna also brought back to life the 6 sons of Devaki, and how they also went back to their lokas, right? Because of their association with Devaki. And also discussed how association with the Lord is very wonderful, but the association of the devotees help us remember the Lord. That's why Prahlad Maharaj, even when he was in the association of Narasimhadev, he asked for the association of Narada Muni, because in the association of the devotees, we remember the Lord. All right, let's continue reading on chapter number 86. We're continuing in the pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna. This topic is entitled the kidnapping of Subhadra and Lord Krishna's visiting Shrutadeva and Bahulashva. Okay, so let's continue reading. Okay, Sarva Gopeshwari Mataji, go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam. The kidnapping of Subhadra and Lord Krishna's visiting Shratadeva and Bakulastra. After hearing the incidents described in the last chapter, King Parikshit became more inquisitive to hear about the Krishna and his pastime, and thus he inquired from Shukadeva Goswami how his grandmother Subhadra kidnapped by his grandfather Arjuna at the instigation of Lord Krishna. King Parikshit was very eager to learn how his grandfather kidnapped and married his grandmother. Thus, Sukadeva Goswami began to narrate the story as follows. Once upon a time, King Parikshit's grandfather Arjuna, the great hero, was visiting several holy places of pilgrimage, and while thus traveling all over, had happened to come to Prabhasha Kshetra. In Prabhasha Kshetra, he heard the news that Lord Balarama was negotiating the marriage of Subhadra, the daughter of Arjuna's maternal uncle Vasudeva. Although her father Vasudeva and her uh, brother Krishna were not an agreement with them, Balarama was in favor of marrying Subhadra to Duryodhana. Arjuna, however, decided to gain Subhadra's hand himself. As he thought of Subhadra and her beauty, Arjuna became more infatuated with the idea of marrying her. And with the plan in mind, he dressed himself like a Vaishnava sannyasi, carrying a tridanda in his hand. The Mayavadi sannyasi take one danda or one rod, whereas the Vaishnava sannyasi take three dandas or three rods. The three rods of tridanda indicate that a Vaishnava sannyasi vows to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his body, mind, and words. The system of Tridanda Sannyasa has been in existence for a long time, and the Vaishnava sannyasis are called Tridandis, or sometimes Tridandi Swamis or Tridandi Goswamis. Sannyasas are generally meant to travel all over the country for preaching work, but during the 4 months of rainy season in India, from July through October, they do not travel but take shelter in one place and remain there without moving. This non-movement of the sannyasi is called Chaturmasya Vrata. When a sannyasi stays in one place for these 4 months, location inhabitants of that place take advantage of his presence to become spiritually advanced. Arjuna, in the dress of a Tridandi sannyasi, remained in the city of Dwaraka for the 4 months of the rainy season, devising a plan whereby he could get Subhadra as his wife. None of the inhabitants of Dwaraka, including Lord Balarama, could recognize the sannyasi to be Arjuna. Therefore, all of them offered their respects and obeisances to the sannyasi without knowing the actual situation. One day, Lord Balarama invited this particular sannyasi to lunch at his home. Balaramji very respectfully offered all kinds of palatable dishes, and the so-called sannyasi was eating sumptuously. While eating at the home of Balaramji, Arjuna was simply looking at beautiful Subhadra, who was very enchanting to great heroes and kings. Out of love for her, Arjuna's eyes brightened, and he looked at her with a glittering eyes. Arjuna decided that somehow or other he would achieve Subhadra as his wife, and his mind became agitated on account of this strong desire. Arjuna, the grandfather of the Maharaja Parikshit, was himself extraordinarily beautiful, and his bodily structure was very attractive to Subhadra, who decided within her mind that she would accept only Arjuna as her husband. As a simple girl, she was smiling with great pleasure, looking at Arjuna. Thus, Arjuna also became more and more attracted by her. In this way, Subhadra dedicated herself to Arjuna, and he resolved to marry her by any means. He then became absorbed at 24 hours a day in thought of how he could get Subhadra as his wife. He was affected with the thought of getting Subhadra and not a moment of peace of mind. Once upon a time, Subhadra, seated on a chariot, came out of the palace home to see the gods in the temple. Arjuna took the opportunity and, with the permission of Vasudeva and Devaki, he kidnapped her. After getting to Subhadra's chariot, he prepared himself for a fight. Taking up his bow and holding up with his arrows, the soldier ordered to check him. Arjuna took Subhadra away. While Subhadra was thus being kidnapped by Arjuna, her relatives and family members began to cry. But still he took her, just as a lion takes his prey and departs. When it was disclosed to Lord Balarama that the so-called sannyasi was Arjuna, who had planned such a device simply to take away Subhadra, and that he had actually taken her, he became very angry, just as the waves of the ocean became agitated on the full moon day. Lord Balarama became greatly disturbed. Lord Krishna was in favor of Arjuna. Therefore, along with the other members of the family, he tried to pacify Balarama by falling at his feet and begging him to pardon Arjuna. Krishna convinced Lord Balarama that Subhadra was attached to Arjuna, and thus Balarama became pleased to know that she wanted Arjuna as her husband. The matter was settled, and to please the newly married couple, Lord Balarama arranged to send a dowry consisting of abundance of riches, including elephants, chariots, horses, men servants, and maid servants. Maharaja Parikshit was very eager to hear more about Krishna, and so, after finishing the narration of the Arjuna's kidnapping Subhadra, Sukadeva Goswami began to narrate another story as follows.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. So we see here that Balaram actually wanted Subhadra to marry Duryodhana, right? Balaram and Krishna are Subhadra's brothers, right? So we see here, but when Krishna told Balaram that Subhadra herself wanted to marry our Arjuna, then immediately he said, okay, right? He offered his blessings. So he had nothing against Arjuna, he had nothing against Duryodhana. But he simply wanted to ensure that whomever Subhadra wants to marry, they have to marry because they have to live together, right? So he did not have any personal interest in wanting Subhadra to marry Duryodhana. He just wanted Subhadra to marry Duryodhana because Duryodhana is also a very good archer. He is also a great warrior, right? But when he understood that Subhadra herself wanted to marry Arjuna, then immediately he sent across the dowry and everything, to actually bring back Arjuna along with Subhadra, right? Like that. So here we see that although Krishna and Balaram maybe have different opinions, right? But whenever Krishna decided to speak to Balaram about something, then immediately Balaram would agree and would support Krishna. So in this way, we see that in every instance, Balaram only wants to serve Lord Sri Krishna. Although he may have a different opinion, right? He will come to understand why Krishna has an opinion and then follow Krishna like that. Right? That's what we also need to do. Right? We have to dovetail everything in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that is the service, and that is the success of life like that. Okay, let's continue reading. Next, one more pastime is being narrated by Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, because Parikshit Maharaj is asking, I want to hear more and more about Lord Krishna's pastimes like that. Okay, so who will read next? Sridhar Prabhu, go ahead. And then Hema Mataji can read next. Yes, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Dandot Pranam Mataji. There was a householder Brahmana in the city of Mithila, the capital kingdom of Videha. The Brahmana, whose name was Sruddadeva, was a great devotee of Lord Krishna because he was fully Krishna conscious and always engaged in the service of Lord. He was completely peaceful in mind and detached from all material attraction. He was very learned and had no desire other than to be fully situated in Krishna consciousness. Although in order to the householder life, he never took great pains to earn anything for his livelihood. He was satisfied with whatever he could achieve without any endeavor, and somehow or other he lived in that way. Every day he would get the necessities of life in just the quantity required and not more. There was a destiny. The Brahmana had no desire to get more than what he needed, and thus he was peacefully executing the regulative principle of Brahmana's life as enjoined in the revealed scriptures. Fortunately, the king of Midula was the good devotee of Brahmana. The name of the famous king was Bahulaswa. He was very well established in his reputation as a good king, and he was not at all ambitious to extend his kingdom for the sake of sense gratification. As such, both Brahmana and the king Bahulaswa remained pure devotee of Lord Krishna in Mithula. Since Lord Krishna was very merciful towards King Bahulaswa and the Brahmana Sraddadeva, he one day asked his driver Daruka to take his chariot into the capital city of Mithila. Lord Krishna was accompanied by the great sages of Narada, Vamanadeva, Arti, Adri, Vyasudeva, Parasura, Asna, Aruni, Sukdeva, Pragaspati, Kanva, Maitreya, Chaivana, and others. Lord Krishna and other sages passed through the many villages and towns, and everywhere the citizen would receive them with a great respect. and offer them article in worship. To the citizen who came to see the Lord and all assembled sages, it seemed that as though the some were present along with the various satellite planets. On the journey, Lord Krishna and sages passed through the kingdom of Andhra, Dhanava, Guru Jangla, Kanaka, Maistya, Panchala, Kunti, Madhu Kaidava, Koshala, and Aruna. And thus all the citizens of these places, both men and women, could see the Lord Krishna face to face. In this way, they enjoyed the celestial happiness with open heart, full of love and affection for the Lord. And when they saw the face of Lord, it seemed to them that they were drinking nectar through their eyes. When they saw Krishna, all ignorant misconceptions of their lives dissipated. When the Lord passes through the various countries and the people came to visit him, simply by glancing over them, the Lord would bestow all good fortune upon them and liberate them from all kinds of ignorance. In some places, the demigods would join with the human beings, and their glorification of the Lord would cleanse all directions of all inauspicious things. In this way, Lord Krishna gradually reached the kingdom of Videha. When citizens received the news of Lord's arrival, they all felt unlimited happiness and came to welcome him, taking gift to their hands to offer. As soon as they saw Lord Krishna, their hearts immediately blossomed in the transcendental bliss, just like lotus flower upon the rising of the sun. Previously, they had simply heard the names of the great sages, but had never seen them. Now, by the mercy of Lord Krishna, they had an opportunity to seeing both the great sages and Lord himself. King Boglaseva and Brahmana Sukdeva, knowing well that Lord had come there just to grace them with favor, immediately fell all the Lord's lotus feet and offered their respects with folded hands. The king and the Brahmana each simultaneously invited Lord Krishna and all the sages to his home. In order to please both of them, Lord Krishna expanded himself into two and went to the houses of each one of them. Yet neither the king nor the Brahmana could understand that the Lord had gone to the house of others. Both though that Lord has gone to only to his own house, that he and his companions were present in both houses. Although both Brahmana and the king thought that he was present in one house only, in is another opulence of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead. This opulence is described in the revealed scriptures as Vaibhava Prakasha. When Lord Krishna married 16,000 wives, he expanded himself into 16,000 forms, each one of them as powerful as himself. Similarly, the Vrindavana, when Brahmanas stole Krishna's calves and covered boys, Krishna expanded himself into many new calves and boys. Mahalasura, the king of Vidarbha. Hare Krishna. Dandavat
Hare
Pranam
Krishna.
Mataji.
Yeah, so we see that we've seen in many pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna how Krishna expands into so many gopas, how he expanded into calves during the Brahma Vimohan Leela, and then Krishna also expanded into the 16,108 queens, and then one 16,108 expansions of himself, so that Narada Muni could see him in each of those palaces, which are those queens doing different things. Right? So it is not very wonderful, or it is not surprising that the Lord can immediately go into the house of the Brahmana Shruta as well as King Bahulashva, because he wanted to give his mercy to both of them. So this is what is called Vaibhava Prakasha. Vaibhava Prakasha means, Vaibhava means opulence. The opulence is shown further when the Lord expands into different forms, which are also different from each other. Right? It is not that the Lord is expanding and all the forms are doing the same thing. Right? Whereas in the yoga, right, when one performs and succeeds in the Ashtanga Yoga, right, he may expand himself into 8, but in all the 8 will be doing the same thing, meditating or walking or whatever. But Krishna manifests into unlimited forms, and each form can be doing different things. That is inconceivable beauty, that is inconceivable potency, that is inconceivable opulence of Lord Sri Krishna. So it's not very great that Krishna could expand himself into 2 forms and go to Bahulashva's home as well as the Brahmanas home at the same time, right? So let's see what happens there. Okay, Hema Mataji, go ahead. Bahulashva, the king of Videha. Mataji, unmute yourself. Okay. Bahulashva, the king of Videha, was very intelligent and was a perfect gentleman. He was astonished that so many great sages, along with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, were personally present in his home. He knew perfectly well that conditioned souls engaged in worldly affairs cannot be 100% pure, whereas the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pure devotees are always transcendental to worldly contamination. Therefore, when he found that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and all the great sages were at his home, he was astonished and he began to thank Lord Sri Krishna for his causeless mercy. Feeling very much obliged and wanting to receive his guests to the best of his ability, he called for nice chairs and cushions, and Lord Krishna, along with all the sages, sat down very comfortably. At that time, King Bahulashwa's mind was very restless, not because of any problems, but because of great ecstasy of love and devotion. His heart was filled with love and affection for the Lord and his associates, and his eyes were filled with tears of ecstasy. He washed the feet of his divine guests, and afterwards, he and his family members sprinkled the water on their own heads. After this, he offered the guests nice flower garlands, sandalwood pulp, incense, new garments, ornaments, lambs, cows, and bulls. In a manner just befitting his royal position, he worshipped each one of them in this way. When all had been fed sumptuously and were sitting very comfortably, Bahulashva came before Lord Krishna and caught his lotus feet. He placed them on his lap, and while massaging the feet with his hands, began to speak the glories of the Lord in a sweet voice. So we'll end here. So here, what do we see here? Right, Bahulashva is the king, right? He is also glorifying the Lord. And the other person is a Brahmana. He is also glorifying the Lord. So the Lord does not distinguish between whether one is a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Shudra or a Brahmana. Right? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Kavihastini Shuni Chaiva Swapake Cha Panditaha Samadarshinaha. Right? So the Lord, right, and pure devotees also do not distinguish between a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Shudra. Right? We need to distinguish only when we want to learn. Right? When we want to understand the principles of transcendental knowledge, then we have to be very careful whom we are hearing from, because we need to hear from a bona fide authority. But when we are giving out the knowledge to others, we don't say, oh, this person is a Kshatriya, this person is a Brahmana, this person is a Shudra, he will not understand anything. No. We don't distinguish. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Kavihastini Shuni Chaiva Swapake Cha Panditaha Sama Darshinaha. Sama Darshina means one sees a dog, a dog eater, an elephant, a Brahmana, everybody is equal, because Krishna is present as a super soul in the hearts of all of the living entities, like that. Okay, let me share my screen again. Let's continue. My dear Lord, you are the super soul of all living entities. And as the witness within the heart, you are cognizant of everyone's activities. Thus, we are duty bound to always think of your lotus feet so that we can remain in a secure position and not deviate from your eternal service. As a result of our continuous remembrance of your lotus feet, you've kindly visited my place personally to favor me with your causeless mercy. We've heard, my dear Lord, that by your various statements, you confirm your pure devotees to be more dear to you than Lord Balaram or your constant servitor, the goddess of fortune. Your devotees are dearer to you than your first son, Lord Brahma. And I'm sure that you've so kindly visited my place in order to prove your divine statement. That is, devotees are more dearer to him than even the goddess of Lakshmi, even the goddess of fortune, goddess Lakshmi, or even Balaram. I cannot imagine how people can be godless and demoniac, even after knowing of your causeless mercy and affection for your devotees who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness. How can these people who know these things forget your lotus feet? Machittamat gata pranabodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So what do the devotees do? The devotees get great pleasure when they chant the glories of the Lord, when they talk to each other about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Right? They get nourished and they also get delighted, they get blissful when they are talking about or glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. And that's exactly what the devotees do, and that's what pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead also. Okay, let's move ahead. Okay. Yes, Anusha Mataji, go ahead. My dear Lord, it is known to us that
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranams, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you, Mataji. My dear Lord, it is known to us that you are so kind and liberal that when a person leaves everything just to engage in Krishna consciousness, you sometimes give yourself in exchange for that unalloyed service. You have appeared in the Yadu dynasty to fulfill your mission of reclaiming all conditioned souls rotting in the sinful activities of material existence, and this appearance is already famous all over the world. My dear Lord, you are the ocean of unlimited mercy, love, and affection. Your transcendental form is full of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. You can attract everyone's heart by your beautiful form as Shyama Sundara Krishna. Your knowledge is unlimited, and to teach all people how to execute devotional service, you have sent your incarnation, Naranarayana, who is engaged in severe austerities and penances at Badrinarayana. And kindly, therefore, accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. My dear Lord, I beg to request you and your companions, the great sages and brahmanas, to remain at my place at least for a few days, so that this family of the famous king Nimi may be sanctified by the dust of your lotus feet. Lord Krishna could not refuse the request of his devotee, and thus he remained there for a few days with the sages to sanctify the city of Mithila and all its citizens. Meanwhile, the Brahmana Shrutadeva, simultaneously receiving Lord Krishna and his associates at his home, was transcendently overwhelmed with joy. After offering his guests nice sitting places, the Brahmana began to dance, waving around his wrap. Shrutadeva, being not at all rich, offered only mattresses, wooden planks, straw carpets, and so on to his distinguished guests, Lord Krishna and the sages, but he welcomed them to the best of his ability. He spoke very highly of the Lord and the sages, and he and his wife washed the feet of each one of them. After this, he took the water and sprinkled it all over the members of this family, over all the members of his family. And although the Brahmana appeared very poor, he was at that time most fortunate. While Shrutadeva was welcoming Lord Krishna and his associates, he simply forgot himself in transcendental joy. After welcoming the Lord and his companions according to his ability, he bought fruits, incense, scented water, scented clay, tulsi leaves, kusha straw, and lotus flowers. They were not costly items and could be secured very easily, but because they were offered with devotional love, Lord Krishna and his associates accepted them gladly. The Brahmana's wives cooked simple foods like rice and dal, and Lord Krishna and his followers were very pleased to accept them because they were offered in devotional love. When Lord Krishna and his associates were fed in this way, the Brahmana Shrutadeva was thinking thus: I have fallen into the deep, dark well of householder life, and I am the most unfortunate person. How has it become possible that Lord Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his associates, the great sages, whose very presence makes a place as sanctified as a pilgrimage site, have agreed to come to my place? While the Brahmana was thinking in this way, the guests finished their lunch and sat back very comfortably. At that time, the Brahmana Shrutadeva and his wife, children, and other relatives appeared there to render service to the distinguished guests. While touching the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, the Brahmana began to speak. Can I continue, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
Yeah, my dear Lord, he said, you are the supreme person, Purushottama, transcendentally situated beyond the manifested and unmanifested material creation. The activities of this material world and of the conditioned souls have nothing to do with your position. We can appreciate that not only today have you given me your audience, but you are associating with all the living entities as Paramatma since the beginning of creation. This statement by the Brahmanas is very instructive. It is a fact that Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, in his Paramatma feature, enters the creation of this material world as Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and Shirodakashayi Vishnu. and in a very friendly attitude, the Lord sits along with the conditioned soul in the body. Therefore, every living entity has the Lord with him from the very beginning. But due to his mistaken consciousness of life, the living entity cannot understand this. When his consciousness, however, is changed into Krishna consciousness, he can immediately understand how Krishna is trying to assist the conditioned souls to get out of the material entanglement. Shrutadeva continued, My dear Lord, you have entered this material world as if sleeping. A conditioned soul, while sleeping, creates false or temporary worlds in his mind. He becomes busy in many illusory activities, sometimes becoming a king, sometimes being murdered, or sometimes going to an unknown city. And all these are simply temporary affairs. Similarly, your lordship, apparently also in a sleeping position, enters this material world to create a temporary manifestation, not for your personal necessities, but for the conditioned soul who wants to imitate your lordship as enjoyer. The conditioned soul's enjoyment in the material world is temporary and illusory. And yet, the conditioned soul is by himself unable to create such a temporary situation for his illusory enjoyment. To fulfill his desires, although they are temporary and illusory, you enter this temporary manifestation to help him. Thus, from the beginning of the conditioned soul's entering into the material world, you are his constant companion. When, therefore, the conditioned soul comes in contact with a pure devotee and takes to devotional service, beginning with the process of hearing your transcendental pastimes, glorifying your transcendental activities, worshipping your eternal form in the temple, offering prayers to you, and engaging in discussion to understand your transcendental position, he gradually becomes freed from the contamination of material existence. And as his heart becomes cleansed of all material dust, you gradually become visible there. Although you are constantly with the conditioned soul, only when he becomes purified by devotional service do you become revealed to him. Others who are bewildered by fruitive activities, either by Vedic injunction or by customary dealings, and who do not take to devotional service, are captivated by the external happiness of the bodily concept of life. You are not revealed to such persons. Rather, you remain far, far away from them. But for one who engages in your devotional service and purifies his heart by constant chanting of your holy name, you are very easily understood as his eternal, constant companion. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you. So here we see a lot of things, right? The king, according to his capacity, served the Lord very nicely, and the Lord was very happy with the king. The Brahmana also, according to his capacity, served the Lord. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upahritam ashnami priyatatmanah. So the Brahmana also served the Supreme Personality of Godhead very nicely, according to his capacity. And he also pleased the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And both of them glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So the Lord does not see what is there. The Lord sees in what bhava, with what consciousness is the particular devotee serving me. Right? And when the devotees glorify the Lord, right? What is mentioned here, the heart becomes cleansed. Right? Cheto darpana marjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam. Right? There is a fire of sense gratification that is burning in our heart. And how can that sense gratificatory fire be removed, be extinguished? Right? Just like a forest fire cannot be extinguished by any amount of buckets of water. The forest fire can only be extinguished when there is rain directly from the clouds. Right? That only can extinguish the forest fire. Similarly, the fire of sense gratification that is burning in our heart cannot be extinguished by our own endeavor. Right? Sevon mukehi jivadav swayameva suratyadaha. When the Lord becomes merciful by seeing our endeavors to practice devotional service for his pleasure, the Lord will reveal himself to us. And when the Lord reveals himself to us, all the anarthas is already removed. And in place of all the anarthas, that becomes place for Krishna Prema or loving devotional service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. Okay, anyone else wants to read? You can raise your hand. It is said that your Lordship sitting in the heart of a devotee gives him direction by which he can very quickly come back to you, come back home. This direct dictation by you reveals your existence within the heart of the devotee. Only a devotee can immediately appreciate your existence within his heart, whereas for a person who has only a bodily concept of life and is engaged in sense gratification, you always remain covered by the curtain of Yoga Maya. Such a person cannot realize that you are very near, sitting within his heart. For a non-devotee, you are appreciated only as ultimate death. The difference is like the difference between a cat carrying its kittens in its mouth and it's carrying a rat in its mouth. In the mouth of the cat, the rat feels its death, whereas the kittens in the mouth of the cat feel motherly affection. Similarly, you are present to everyone, but the non-devotee feels you as ultimate cruel death, whereas the devotee, you are the supreme instructor and philosopher. The atheist therefore understands the presence of God as death. The devotee understands the presence of God always within his heart, takes dictation from you, and lives transcendently unaffected by the contamination of the material world. Very beautiful analogy, right? Hiranyakashipu was also bewildered by seeing the ferocious form of Nrsimhadev Bhagwan, right? But actually, Prahlad Maharaj, this is not a ferocious form, right? When we're talking of ferocious form, we are talking of something that everybody is scared of, right? But Nrsimhadev is not so ferocious. It's not at all ferocious, in fact, because Prahlad Maharaj sat on the lap of Nrsimhadev. And what did he do? Nrsimhadev was licking Prahlad Maharaj, right? And that's what this analogy also given here, right? The kitten in the mouth of its mother, the cat. It is the best. It's the best zone of protection for the kitten. Whereas for the rat, it is the greatest source of danger, right? So in this way, if you are surrendered to the Lord is our eternal protector, right? But if you are not surrendered to the Lord, then we think Mrityu Sarvaharascha, the Lord will come in the form of death and take away everything. So for a devotee who wants to accumulate a lot of things, who wants to enjoy sense gratification, the Lord comes in the form of death and takes away everything. But to a devotee who surrenders everything to the Lord is eternal. Yogakshemam vahamiham. The Lord is eternally carries what the devotee wants. And the Lord protects what the devotee has. Like that. Okay. Okay. Where were we actually? One second. Yeah. So Yoga Maya Samavrataha, right? So by the Yoga Maya, Krishna will not reveal himself to those who want to compete with Krishna. The Lord will reveal himself to those who are surrendered to him, who want to serve him, like that. Okay. Moshmi Mataji, go ahead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And then Rajneesh Prabhu can read. Yeah.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is naturally very much effectively inclined to his devotees. When he heard Shrutadeva's prayers of pure devotion, he was very pleased and immediately caught his hand and addressed him thus, my dear Shrutadeva, all these great sages, Brahmanas, and saintly persons have been very kind to you by personally coming here to see you. You should consider this opportunity to be a great fortune for you. They are so kind that they are traveling with you, and wherever they go, they immediately make the whole atmosphere as pure as transcendental simply by touch of the dust of their feet. People are accustomed to go to the temple of God. They also visit holy places of pilgrimage, and after prolonged association with such activities for many days by touch and by worship, they gradually become purified. But the influence of great sages and saintly person is so great that by seeing them one immediately become completely purified. Moreover, the very purifying potency of pilgrimages, pilgrim or worship of different demigod is also achieved by the grace of saintly person. Pilgrimage sit because becomes a holy place because of the presence of the saintly person. Mm, my dear Shukadeva, when a person is born as a Brahmana, he immediately becomes the best of all human beings. And if such a Brahmana remaining self-satisfied, practices of studies the Vedas and engage in my devotional service as in the duty of the Brahmana, or in other words, if a Brahmana become a Vaishnava, how wonderful is his greatness. My feature of four-handed Narayana is not a pleasing or dear to me as is a Brahmana Vaishnava. Vaishnava. Brahmana means one well conversant with the Vedic knowledge. A Brahmana is the insignia of perfect knowledge, and I am the full-fledged manifestation of all God. Less intelligent men do not understand me, nor do they understand the influence of the Brahmana Vaishnava. They are influenced by the three modes of material nature and thus there to criticize me and my pure devotees. Brahmana, Vaishnava, or a devotee already on the Brahminical platform can realize me within his little bit, little bit,
Within his
little
heart.
bit. Uh, uh, within his heart, and therefore he definitely concludes that the whole cosmic manifestation and its different features are effects of different energies of the Lord. Thus, he has clear concept of the whole material nature and the total material energy, and is every action such a devotee sees me only and nothing else.
Hare
My
Krishna.
dear
Hare
Hare
Govinda.
Krishna, Bhagavatam.
So here we see is right. Naham tishtade Vaikunte, right? Krishna says, I'm not residing in Vaikunta, right? But where my glories are sung, I'm eternally present there, right? That's what Krishna is saying, right? So here, the devotee does not know anybody other than the Lord, and the Lord does not know anything apart from the devotee. Such is the intimate, loving reciprocation between the Lord and his devotees, right? So here, but people who are less intelligent, they do not understand. What do they understand? They understand, okay, the Lord is the supreme personality of Godhead. He's being worshipped in the temple. That's all that a Kanishta Adhikari understands. But here the Lord is saying, right, my four-handed Narayana form is also not as dear to me as a Brahmana Vaishnava. Brahman Janati iti Brahmana. That means one who understands the Vedic knowledge, or one who understands the supreme personality of Godhead. One who's understood the Vedic knowledge, he is called a Brahmana. But a Brahmana has knowledge. A Brahmana Vaishnava is on the platform of having a realization of the Brahminical understanding, or having realized wisdom of this knowledge, because he practically puts it into practice. Right? So that is the difference. A Brahmana, Vaishnava is considered to be higher than a Brahmana, because a Vaishnava is a living Bhagavata. He lives according to the principles of the Vedic scriptures. A Brahmana might know it, what are the principles, but he may not be able to apply it. That's why a Vaishnava, Brahmana is the head of the society, but a Vaishnava is considered even higher than that of a Brahmana, like that. Okay, let's move ahead. Who wants to read next? I saw 2-3 hands. Yeah, Rajneesh Prabhu, go ahead. My dear Shrutadeva.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danda Pranam.
Yes.
My dear Shrutadev, you may therefore accept all these great saintly persons, Brahmins and sages as my bona fide representatives. By worshipping them faithfully, you will be worshipping me more diligently. I consider worship of my devotees to be better than direct worship of me. If someone attempts to worship me directly without worshipping my devotees, I don't accept such worship, even though it may be presented with great opulence. In this way, both the Brahman Shukdev, Shukdev and the king of Mithila, under the direction of Lord, worshipped both Krishna and his followers, the great sages and saintly Brahmins, on an equal level of spiritual importance. Both Brahmins and kings ultimately achieved the supreme goal of being transferred to the spiritual world. The devotee does not know anyone except Lord Krishna, and Krishna is most affectionate to his devotee. Lord Krishna remained in the Mithila both at the house of the Brahman Shukdeva and at the palace of King Bahulasva, and after favoring them lavishly by his transcendental instructions, he went back to his capital city Dwarka.
Hare Krishna.
The
Thank you, Prabhu.
instruction, the
Very
instruction
good.
we receive from instruction we
Very good. Thank you,
Hare
thank you,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here we see that it is not that Krishna favored Bahulashva more and did not favor Sutadharma. Why? Because he is a Brahmana. He served him opulently, whereas the Brahmana gave, not so opulent worship. Right? Because Krishna does not want any kind of opulence. Krishna is self-satisfied. Krishna is Atmaram. What does Krishna see? Krishna saw that Shruta Deva, right? The Brahmana as well as King Bahulashva, both of them were serving to the best of their abilities. And both of them were serving with utmost devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is all that the Lord sees, right? The Lord sees the worship of Bahulashva as well as the worship of Shruta Deva equally, right? Because the Lord is not judging by the externals. The Lord is seeing by the internal mood and consciousness, and both of them were eternally devoted to Lord Shri Krishna. So he regarded both of them equally like that. Okay, Nagamani Mataji, go ahead. You can read the last paragraph. We'll complete this chapter and end the session. Yes, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Dandvat Pranam Mataji.
Yes.
Yeah, the instructions we receive from this incident is that King Bahulava and Shrutadeva, the Brahmana, were accepted by the Lord on the same level because both were pure devotees. This is the real qualification for being recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because it has become the fashion. It has become the fashion.
This age to be falsely proud
To
of having.
It has become the fashion of this age to be falsely proud of having taken birth in the family of a kshatriya or a brahmana. We see persons without any qualification other than birth, claiming to be a brahmana or kshatriya or vaishya. But as stated in the scriptures, Kalau
Shudra Sambhava.
Kalau Shudra Sambhava. In this age of Kali, everyone is both a Shudra. This is because born Shudra. This is because there is no performance of the purificatory process known as samskaras, which begin from the time of mother's pregnancy and continue up to the point of the individual death. No one can be classified as a member of a particular caste, especially of a higher caste. Brahmana, Kshatriya is Vaishya or Vaishya simply by birthright if one is not purified by the process of the seed giving ceremony or Guru. What is this, Mataji? Guru Garbhadhana Samskara, he is immediately classified amongst the Shudras because only the Shudras do not undergo this purificatory process. Sex life without the purificatory process of Krishna consciousness is merely the seed giving process of the Shudras or the animals. Krishna consciousness is therefore the best process of purification. But this process, by this process, everyone can come to the platform of a Vaishnava, which includes having all the qualifications of Brahmana. The Vaishnava are trained to become freed from the four kinds of sinful activities: illicit sex, indulgence in intoxication, gambling, and eating animal foods. One cannot be on the Brahminical platform without having these preliminary qualifications, and without becoming a qualified Brahmana, one cannot become a pure devotee. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport of the 86th chapter of Krishna, the kidnapping of Subhadra and Lord Krishna's visiting Shrutadeva and Bahula Sava.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam. So here we see Krishna did not distinguish between the worship offered by Shrutadeva and Bahulashva because both of them were ultimately desiring to serve, satisfy and please Lord Sri Krishna. And Krishna only saw the bhava. The Krishna is a bhava grahi janardana. So Krishna saw the bhava in the hearts of both the king as well as the Brahmana and blessed them profusely, stayed with them for a long, long time until they were satisfied. And then he returned back to his palace like that. So this chapter ends here. We will continue with chapter number 87 next Wednesday. So Monday is Ekadashi, the most auspicious occasion of Ekadashi. So please do join us for a special session, and please note the timing will be in the evening, 7 to 8, Indian 7:30 to 8:30, I believe, right? The poster has been shared, so it is 7 or 7:30. We will have it in the evening this time. So please do join us for the Ekadashi special session. That's on Monday. And of course, Saturday, Sunday, we meet at 5 o'clock for the Brahma Muhurta chanting sessions as always. Monday is Ekadashi. Tuesday, Shobha Mataji will be reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, explaining the verse. And then we will go ahead with 1.4, right? We are continuing chapter number 4 of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Appearance of Sri Narada Muni. And Wednesday onwards, we'll continue with chapter number 87, 88, 89, 90. With that, we complete the Krishna book for the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga. Now we'll do Harinam Sankirtan. Devotees can switch on your cameras, and then we'll see have darshan of the devotees and end our session. Namma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी सत्यादिशोधारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरा भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे जय गौरनीता जय जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय जय सुभद्रा जय सुदर्शन जय बाल गोपाल जय रुक्मिणी विठल जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय गोस्वामी जय गुरु परंपरा जय प्रभुपादा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद श्रील गुरुदेव की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरि हरि बोल। हरे कृष्णा। थैंक यू मौसमी माता जी, शोभा माता जी, श्रीधर प्रभु, अनुषा माता जी, राजनीश प्रभु, हरजीत माता जी, and all the devotees. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद श्रील गुरुदेव की जय। Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, devotees. We'll meet you all tomorrow morning, 5 o'clock for the Brahma Muhurta chanting session.